I'm in Panguitch, Utah, which in its early days was a frontier outpost and still retains some of that character, except for this seeming incongruity. In the center of town is a park named Quilt-Walk Park, with a statue of a 66-year-old mountain man-like character named Jesse Lauder throwing out a quilt as if he were going to have a picnic. And every year during the second week of June, Panguitch has a 4-day festival called the Quilt-Walk Festival. Well, there is an explanation, and it contains one of the most unique and amazing stories in Utah's fascinating history. To avoid the inhospitable Arizona and Mexico deserts and the impassable Grand Canyon, the old Spanish Trail, which connected Santa Fe, New Mexico with Southern California, made a huge loop up through southern and central Utah, passing through what is now Parowan City. In 1864, when the first settlers were sent from Parowan to settle Panguitch, they followed the old Spanish Trail up Little Creek Canyon and over the summit into Upper Bear Valley. The trail winds through both Upper and Lower Bear Valley to the point where I'm standing now on Utah Highway 20. Then it follows the route of Highway 20 east until it enters the northern end of Panguitch Valley. When they got to about this point on the trail, the snow was so deep they had to abandon their wagon and oxen and try to proceed on foot. So the quilt walk actually began at about here. They went up through that narrow pass between Lower and Upper Bear Valley, over the summit and down Little Creek Canyon, a distance of about 15 miles, walking on quilts spread on top of the snow so that they wouldn't break through the crust and sink down to their waists. I'm standing at the mouth of Little Creek Canyon, just north of Paragona, Utah, where the old Spanish Trail and the Panguitch Quilt-Walkers emerged from the mountain passes through which they had come to get to the flour mill at the mouth of Parowan Canyon, about 5 miles south of here. At the mill, they were given 100-pound sacks of flour and brought back to the point where the snow was again so deep that they had to proceed on foot. But even with 100-pound flour sacks on their back, the quilts supported them all the way back to the wagon, which they loaded with the 700 pounds of flour and proceeded back to Panguitch, where they were met with great rejoicing since they had been gone much longer than anticipated.